Thank you very much. Also, before turning to Senator Booker, I want to share for public benefit that the fact is the government has effective and powerful tools to help screen and protect against any potential threats posed by students, and the vast majority of international students pose no threats. In fact, it's the subject of a letter from national security experts from both sides of the aisle that was recently distributed to House and Senate leaders. And I will quote from that letter: global STEM talent drives American leadership in critical sectors that underpin the defense industrial base from computing to aerospace. And we will submit that letter into the record. Senator Booker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your comments, Mr. Chairman. We are in a crisis in our country because we're in a global competition. We're in a knowledge-based economy. The most valuable natural resource any country has is the genius of its people. And Mr. Barola, in your written testimony, you explain how the United States has seen a massive decline. We're losing out in this competition in terms of students coming to this country in recent years. And this is incredible wealth that helps us to stay competitive. International student enrollment in the U.S. decreased by 7% between 2017 to 2019. Enrollment went up by 23% amongst our competitors in the UK, 43% amongst our competitors in Australia, 52% amongst our competitors in Canada. And they are benefiting from that driving economy. And so can you just spell it out one more time? I mean, this is such a self-inflicted wound. And it's also a turning back on our history about, I can think about everything from our ability to beat the Nazis all the way to the space race on how these achievements of our country have been fueled by having immigration. But can you speak to the negative consequences of this decline and the loss of our competitive advantage?
Thank you, Senator Booker. You're exactly correct. The U.S. wrote the book on soft power projection and how to bring the best and brightest minds to our country, which has only benefited us over the last 50, 60, 70 years, especially during the Cold War. Our universities are incredibly and heavily dependent on international students for the advanced STEM fields in particular. Over half of our graduate degree earners in areas like engineering, advanced sciences, mathematics, applied math, quantum computing, AI, are international students that are filling those seats. We do not produce, at the moment, the domestic talent to fill those seats. So if we see a sustained decline in international student enrollment, it will be difficult for our universities to sustain those courses, and that would only have a negative effect on drying up the pipeline of talent for our workforce and our companies.
And for innovation in the future. Obviously, I graduated from Stanford, and you could see the Silicon Valley being defined by America. The future of the internet was defined by America. These new industries are dominating the planet right now, defined by America. And now the other industries, we are losing our pipeline like we had for the explosion of these companies around the time I was coming up in the 80s and 90s. Now, so this is if you see these trends continue, what does it mean for American competitiveness in these new era industries, biotech and more, over the next 5-10 years?
We know from labor statistics estimations that by 2030, there will be about 10 million more jobs needed in the advanced STEM fields. And we are not producing that talent here in the U.S. So every time we lose an international student to a competitor country, that is a student that will go on to contribute to that country's innovation, that country's future businesses, and those research developments that will not be developed here in the U.S. And so, yes, it's a huge impact, not just economically, not just to our university's ability to continue to offer these courses to domestic students, but also to our own national security.
Yeah, I'm a competitor, a fierce competitor. I would talk about my competition in my football days, but I don't want to insult the senator from Texas who thinks he knows something about football colleges. But in terms of America's competitiveness, this is crazy. We are literally tying one hand behind our back if we reverse these trends. Now, I just want to, in the minute that I have remaining, can you help me just debunk a myth? Because I hear this all the time. It's said as if it's fact, but it's such a crazy myth that we often hear opponents of immigration reform talking about, that increasing employment-based immigration will take jobs away from hardworking Americans. And it rests on this idea that there's some kind of finite number of jobs. I know one engineer, for example, can often create adjunct jobs in a significant way depending on the industry they're in. Companies create jobs, and when companies create jobs, demand for labor goes up. And when companies close, demand for labor goes down. In the case of immigrants, they not only increase the supply of labor, but they also, and I hope you can speak to this, can increase the demand for it. Their salaries and their wages are used to buy groceries, rent apartments, buy goods. It's a multiplier effect of economic activity. And so can you just, maybe in the last seconds I have, can you just tell this committee why falling victim to that myth is really hurting the American economy and making the problem for Native-born Americans and the economy for Native-born Americans even worse than it would if we were dealing with immigration policy that welcomed in more of these workers?
Thank you, Senator. A highly skilled workforce drives innovation and drives business development. 44% of Fortune 500 companies in this country were founded by immigrants or the children of immigrants, and over 20% of all of our billion-dollar startups were established by international students. So they are creating jobs, they are adding to and enhancing innovation and employment here in the United States, not subtracting. So I agree with your statement.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure the chairman agrees with me that California college football teams are better than Texas college football teams.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Klobuchar.